Hello, everyone. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Scott Litweiler, and I was the pastoral intern at Columbus Mennonite Church in the summer of 2019. Since leaving CMC, I accepted a role as one of two pastors at Lorraine Avenue Mennonite Church in Wichita, Kansas. I also very unexpectedly accepted a call to be on the board of directors at Dove's Nest, which has been such a gift. And so I am delighted, congregation that I love, to be able to come to you virtually in my role as a member of the board of Dove's Nest to talk about the importance of child safety for your Keeping CMC Safe training. Now, as a pastor, I always like to look to the Bible first, because I think there are some pretty decent stories in there. Sadly, there aren't as many stories about children in the Bible as I would appreciate. Having said that, one of my favorites comes from the Gospel of Mark, and it is the Markan take on the question, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? The passage goes like this. Then they came to Capernaum, and when Jesus was in the house, he asked the disciples, "What were you arguing about on the way?" They were silent, for on the way they had been arguing with one another about who was the greatest. So Jesus sat down. He called over the 12 and said to them, "Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all." Then he took a little child and put it in their midst. And taking it in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me." From Mark 9. Now, this is one of those stories that shows up in all four Gospels, and other Gospels say things like, we must be like children to enter the kingdom. And I think this story is so powerful because it completely flips the script. That social hierarchy that is in place, it just says something completely different. Now, during Jesus's days, social hierarchies were built into the society. And in the household, it was always the father who was first, and then maybe the mother, and then if there were any servants, they were under those two, and then very last would have been the young kids. And so here is Jesus saying that the young kids are the ones that we need to be more like in order to enter the kingdom, in order to be worthy of entering the kingdom. And another thing that I like about this passage is that there is a kid right there in the group of followers. Jesus didn't need to go searching for a child to use as a visual for his disciples, because kids were part of the group of disciples. They were present to learn, and I would argue from this reading, to teach. So what does it mean for us to be like a child? Some scholars would say that it means we need to be obedient and subservient to God. Others, though, and I'll admit my own bias, they acknowledge the general mode of how children navigate in the world around them. So I want you to stop and think. What do you think about when working with kids? What are some of the modes that they operate within in their world? For me, one of the first things that comes to mind is the question, why? Children tend to be so curious. They want to understand this big new world that they're a part of. So they ask questions when they don't understand. They ask why things are the way that they are. And they're not afraid to point out when something doesn't make sense or when it isn't fair. Sure, kids are innocent and obedient, and they are inquisitive. We adults can learn from all aspects of who children are in their own unique and important ways. And so as I ponder what it means to be a congregation that values being a safe sanctuary, one of the things that I'm seeing is that we adults need to support those in our midst who need it the most. And part of that is that not every child is able to protect themselves. And so we adults put these policies and procedures in place to ensure that our kids are safe. We also put these policies and practices into place to keep ourselves safe. And we flip that script to acknowledge just how important our kids are. They're not just the church of the future, they are the church of the right now. And we don't do this to patronize them, to say that they're not capable individuals. Rather, we know that we live in a world that doesn't always have the same values that Christ did. The world we live in doesn't always give them the same protections, doesn't give the same protections to all individuals. So, churches get to be in the role of being able to show how our values are not always the same values as our societies. We believe in an upside down kingdom that values all humans, including those who society has said are less than. And this subversive kingdom takes it even further to say that those humans who society says are less than, they get to lead the way. Our churches value the voices coming from the margins, and we are willing to learn from those who are not often seen as teachers, like our children. We have so much to learn. So way to go, you subversive church. Thank you for taking this charge seriously, and thank you so much for being willing to care for the humans in your congregation. May you continue to see and also sense the presence of the divine as you do this good work. And may you follow in the footsteps of Jesus by welcoming the children in your midst, as well as the God who sends them. Christ's peace be with you all. Take care.